we're finally into the playoffs for the never used Champions League, one of the biggest team tournaments that we run in NU. But that doesn't mean I don't want to talk about games that happened before the playoffs, man. So I picked out 5 Scarlet and Violet NU matches to look at today that I thought were like fun or had some good narratives behind them. We've got Eternally versus MJ, where Eternally had to sub in at like 3 a.m. my time because Danny missed his time to play. I'm not gonna say that word, but screw you, Danny. Y'all know what word I mean. Screw you. We got the Battle of the Undefeateds. Both of these players coming in 4-0. We've got the Strap himself using the wonderful Sleep Spam team. And then we just got, look, man, a fun match. I believe Wadley is actually the in the circuit finals for NU, which is pretty cool. And then Boof, who's just always been a pretty good player in these NU tournaments. So I wanted to look at these 4 games today. Of course, you enjoy the type of content we're putting out lately, do subscribe if you're not already subscribed. You get this daily, you get this when I'm on vacation, you get this when I'm at work. It's incredible, the consistency that we're here with. Also, hey man, consider joining as a member if you want. You get more content. I think that's pretty good. So the first game we're looking at is Eternally versus MJ. Both of them bringing full-on offense. Eternaly's a little bit not, it's not pure hyper offense, but you look at the team, you're probably thinking maybe like Choiced Flygon with rocks with Spike's keys. These would be like my immediate thoughts. The main thing that's very fun about this team though is the Floatzel. The Floatzel plus the keys, I should say, because the Clef keys actually Rain Dance. So you've got that little nice core there. Unfortunately, it doesn't get to be revealed this game, but I wanted to point it out because I think it's a very cool idea. Floatzel in general, we've seen it a little bit pop up on balances and even just general offenses as a nice strong pivot. And I think it's cool to see Eternally take a bit more of a dedicated approach to it, giving it further support with a Rain Dance user. Whereas MJ, of course, has brought just pure Rain, which actually is pretty good for a turn. Let's keep in mind too, his Floatzel could be Jolly anyway, because it's not a full Rain team, so even though you have Rain support, maybe you're like, okay, I still want to be faster, just in case Rain's not up. So if he is Jolly Floatzel on this team, it actually is so nice, because now you'll never have to worry about a speed tie here. I think that's pretty fun. And as I look at the teams too, if there any one mon that I think is going to be just truly problematic, I mean, not really. I think these are 2 generally even matchups because it's offense, and each team has ways to shift the momentum back in their favor. I think maybe if you're Eternally, you'd be kind of worried about the Overquill. Sword Stance Overquill does look potentially kind of dirty, but it doesn't seem like it's unplayable versus. So we look at the preview, we get Gligar matched up into Flygon, and so we expect just honorable exchanging of the rocks. MJ is a dirty player though, which matches with IRL, and he gets a crit U-turn, not exchanging rocks. Very, very despicable behavior. Thankfully, Eternally does have his car keys with him. You can throw up a little spike here if he wants to get another spike even, and did. I know it doesn't really matter if I have the spike on here, but I've seen people comment about it, and it annoys me too. So Floatzel comes in on that EQ, forces a Terra immediately too, and this Terra is going to be very, very detrimental for MJ. We already see why. Thundurus now comes out, and I can just boost. There's nothing you can do to stop that. And if you look at MJ's team with the Gligar Terra, Thundurus is an insane threat. And Eternally takes this very, very free chance now that he's been given. He's up with an agility. Now, if he was Nasty Plot here, a guy like me immediately plotted up and said, alright, try and beat me. Because the Thundurus could just end up outspeeding the entirety of MJ's team and winning. That's not what happens though. He does end up trading kills though with the opposing Thundurus, which Ekmon could have been a little annoying. So it is always nice to have that out of the way. Now Eternally goes to his Chandelure after the double down. Of course, MJ's going to expect a Terra here, but he could not have been prepared for Terra Water Shandy. Now, why run Terra Water over Terra Grass, you may ask? Water is a little bit better neutral coverage. It still gives you a lot of the same defensive utility, minus the ground resist, of course, but it's a little bit better neutral coverage for the Overquill. That is the reason that Eternally cited to me that he liked Water as an option. It gives you Terra Blast, and is just better, because people like to pivot Overquill on predicted, like, Shadow Balls. And when you have an obvious Terra coming out there as well, because why would Eternally use Chandelure to check a Water type? You know, that you probably expect Terra Grass, just not with the Terra Blast. So now, Gligar comes in. Unfortunately, we see the Terra. This is where it comes back to bite him too. because Glastrier doesn't have Levitate, so he loses his Spikes immunity, and now Wave Crash is a 2-shot. Now, with the help of a crit, so I mean, the crit does matter there, but end of the day, it ends up just being Eternally gets in a very, very dominating position. The Yuxi tries to Memento, but it can't, because apparently Memento does need a target, which makes sense because the stat drops. And then Eternally cleaning up at the end with his Zoroark. Unless he hacked Knock-On. Maybe not. Maybe Eternaly's a hacker and he hacked Knock-Off on the Flagon. I don't know. But very fun game. What do I have? Oh, I disconnected. That's cool. I'll just click work offline, yeah. I don't know why I have this team opened. But now we get game 2. And we got the Doc. I will not say his name out loud. We have the Doc, though, versus Kyo. And both of these guys coming into this were 4-0 in this tournament, putting in some very good performances. These are some very fun teams as well. I actually think it'd be pretty fun to cover both of their weeks 1 through 4 matches in separate videos, just to talk about, like, how did they get to 4-0 before their inevitable clash. But through a lot of this, Kyo was experimenting with some offenses earlier weeks. The Doc, I think he had a bit more of a mixed... I actually need to refresh myself on Kyo's team, because I don't feel like I know he didn't purely run offense. I just know that in the first couple weeks, we saw him really digging deep in his bag. Mr. Doc here, I remember seeing some maybe more balanced builds in earlier weeks. I think there was an offense and a balance in the first 2 weeks. Honestly, yeah, this is all the excuse I need to go watch those games again. I don't even remember the teams they were using. The meta's so old. But this game, we see Mr. PhD. He brought a very balanced build here. So you got your nice little utility core, the Serena, Raj, Overquill, and then your offensive core of the Quiver Dance, Pom Pom. And then you don't know what these do. You don't know yet. The Poros could be Bulk Up, it could be Scarf, it could be Bandit, the Flago could be Scarf, it could be DD, it could be Bandit. There's really nothing to tell you. All I know is this Oricorio wants to dance. Kyo, meanwhile, it's weird. I don't want to call this stall, because there's no Wish Passer, and I think on stall you do want Wish support. I think it just holds that type of team together. But, like, is this semi-stall? I mean, it doesn't feel like it's just generally bulky, because usually a defensive team has some sort of offensive presence. And I guess you could argue that the team does, because you've got Mudstale, which is a generally just strong mon even without investment. Meloetta, it could be Scarf Meloetta on the build. There's nothing stopping it, and that's what I would say would tick it to be semi-stall, with like Scarf Meloetta, or even like Assault Vest Meloetta with a more offensive EV spread. I think that could constitute it, because then you've got maybe Relic Song stuff to turn yourself into Meloetta Pirouette. It gives you a nice amount of speed. Houndstone, though, I mean, again, Poltergeist off of like 101 base attack is pretty strong. Serena, we've talked about. It's just a naturally strong mon. Diancie, I mean, it can boost while doing damage, make itself stronger. So it's not like a lack of offensive presence. And he's also got Spikes plus Rocks. And a spin block, like literally the best spin blocker in the tier with Houndstone. So he's got ways of getting a chip. It's just kind of hard for me to label this. But, of course, I see Preview, I see Oricorio. My immediate thought is this. Does this have Psyshock? Does this have Switcheroo with like a Scarf or a Toxic Orb? Just something to dissuade the Oricorio. And then, of course, what is this thing's Terra type? Is he Fairy? Is he Ground? Is he Steel? Is he some other 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th Terra? I think literally any of those could be good this game, but naturally something that gives you a better matchup versus Diancie is what we're going to be looking for here. So I think Oricorio could put in a lot of work, but we'll see. It always comes down to Terra, I think, at the end of the day. And we see Mudstale led versus the Serena. Kyo, of course, wants to preserve the horse for now. So he goes to the keys, which is Helmet. So that already tells you that Oricorio could set up versus this pretty safely. And now we see a very honorable exchanging of the spikes. Both of these players, how'd they get the 4-0? It wasn't through being, you know, a dirty player. It was through teamwork and friendship and good morals. So each of them opts for all 3 layers. Now, of course, the Doc, seeing the Helmet, knows this Oricorio could set up. The only reason he wouldn't go to Oricorio versus Keys is if you haven't gotten the item revealed. And he ends up being Terra Water. Now, Terra Ground would have been better here because the Diamond Storm would do less. But Water is also very good because it gives you that 2-shot versus the Diancie. Now the Serena comes out, and Doc does switch here, thinking that the Serena is going to have to Terra here. You don't want to risk into Serena being like Terra Steel, or even just what it was here, Terra Dragon, and then not getting KO'd by a Hurricane, assuming he even has it, because he could be taunt. So switches into Overquill, able now just throw off some Bar Barrages, as Kyo ends up just getting a Rapid Spin off. This is a very, very nice trade for him here. And he ends up getting rid of the Overquill's items. So, like, if you're Kyo, you're really happy with this outcome. Maybe he gets a little greedy here, though. The hubris ticks in. Not the hubris. The greed. As I said, yeah. But the greed comes in, and he ends up just getting poisoned, and the spike goes right back up. So maybe he'll stand a few too many turns, but it still worked out okay, I would say. Now, we got Doc with his Serena out, but because Kyo's got a Houndstone, the spikes are staying. And he's got the helmet to chip the Serena down even further. Very nice all around. Now, Kyo does end up taking some chip on the dog here. Poltergeist to Oricorio just to make sure that it can't go for Roost as the Overquill comes back out. And yeah, this means the spikes are coming right back up, but not before a Bar Barrage. This is where Kyo's earlier turns maybe cost him a bit, as he ends up now having like no Serena and losing most of his Houndstone as well. I just didn't think that one through. I think he probably just means the immediate switch to Serena on the Overquill, expecting another spike to go up, where he probably should have been going into like keys just off rip. So kind of costly, as now the Raj comes out versus the keys. Gonna be getting Stealth Rock up very, very, very freely here. There's just not really a ton that Kyo has to do outside of throw off a T-Wave. Could have maybe even gone Horse there, but Horse just allows in the Serena, which, I mean, I don't know, do you really care to do that? Probably not. Now, the T-Wave ends up being very nice for Kyo, though. You get a ton of chip off on this Raj here with the foul plays. Basically take it out of commission. It does open up Meloetta, depending on what the set is. And as Gale even going for Gleams here instead of foul play, looking just in case the Tauros comes out, that it will not be able to get as free a switch in as you would on a foul play. And now the Serena comes back out, and I mean, yeah, he wants to spin, so he goes for it. Unfortunately, the Doc does have a sack there with the low health Overquill, as now Gon comes out, and this is just kind of over, unfortunately for Kyo, and he forfeits. So why did he forfeit here? He had a full health Meloetta, whose set wasn't revealed. He had a Mudsdale, who was still at full health. And he even had a Houndstone, although the Houndstone would have taken, like, what, 30% I think about from that Hazards. Well, some of this does come to do with not knowing even, like, we still don't know what the Flygon set was. If it was Banded Flygon at this point, it was winning the game. Meloetta's not going to be able to one-shot it, I don't think, with a Scarf set, right? I don't fully know. But Banded Flygon, if the Meloetta was just not going to be Scarf, then it's going to get one-tapped. Houndstone was in range of EQ, and Mudsdale just probably doesn't have anything it can really respond with to the Flygon. But beyond that, right, what if it was just Scarf Flygon? Well, one, now it's faster than Meloetta, so that's not particularly good. And even Horse, yeah, you can switch it on Scarf EQ just fine. The problem is, with all the hazards that are up, you have a very limited amount of times you can do that. Doc can always sack Raj as well to get in one of Serena or the Tauros to then just force this back out because of the threat of too much damage. It's not, especially with Tauros, it's not going to win that trade. Unless maybe he gets like a really lucky crit. And so as a result, the Horse wouldn't have to come right back in, maybe have no stamina boost, take another like 25-ish or so from all the hazards. There's just really not a ton of counterplay left for Kyo. So, move on. Got Mr. Sky Solo versus Z Lydium, who I'm gonna be honest, fam, I don't know who Z Lydium is, but I think they started most weeks of the tournament. It's pretty good. Actually, again, I don't say that to be mean or anything either. I don't really know people outside of NU. Okay, they didn't start this week, but you know what? We're gonna watch their game anyways. They bring a team that, I mean, this looks like a team I'd build, so I already am supportive of their journey in NU no matter what. We have the Quillfish Kaparaja Arena Core, which is something I've used a pretty good amount of, dating back, you know, previous metas. They got a nice little Scarf Raptor, which is, this is how I say you always need to support Raptor. You got the spin sport, and then you have Shandy plus Flygon, and this kind of works a lot like Doctor, his team right here, because you've got a mod that you probably assume is always going to be Scarf, but then you have the dirty set ambiguity here. Is Shandy Specs? Is it Colbur Berry? Is it Boots? And then with Flygon, is it Bandit? Is it DD? Is it some other third thing? So very nice here. And with Sky Solo's team, do I even need to go over this? Do I even need to go over this absolute masterclass team that I built, man? This the modern day Mona Lisa of team building? They told me I couldn't put foes to sleep anymore, and I said, you're lying to me. So I loaded up Effects for Plume and Relic Song Meloetta. So we already know the team, though. It's AV. This is Rocks plus Spin, Specialty Defensive, Scarf Flygon, Spec Chandelure. And this is before the edits we made in the video with Joey. So this is Calm Mind, 2 attacks with Synthesis, and Terra Blast Ground. So from preview, I mean, there is not much on this team that I'm worried about, honestly, other than the Raptor. Which, even then, you can mitigate Raptor's impact through proper play and getting hazards up. But the Raptor's kind of scary because your Steel type's a Sand Slash. Yeah, that one hurts. That one hurts. And your general physical wall is a Vileplume. So it's a little bit problematic. But it's certainly not some matchup that you can't play around decently enough. I would also just say that Florges kind of 6-0s whenever it chooses to. You probably want to get rid of, like, Serena, maybe even Quill, because Quill could be faster with Flip Turn. You don't know the EVs yet. Serena, of course, if you Terra Ground, it is going to one-shot you with Whip. But otherwise, there's really not a lot that could stop Terra Ground, Calm Mind, Florges here. So, I like that. And also, of course, the Meloetta is actually pretty annoying. Because you don't really want to switch Chandelure in a Meloetta. Because you're going to take a lot of chip from the knock. And from preview, at least, you don't know if this is just AV with, like, Psychic, the more standard set with, like, Psychic, not Hyper Voice, usually, like, Terra Blast, Psychic, Terra Blast, U-turn Knock, something like that. So, it's not a clean switch in early on. Could be annoying. So, we see Flygon versus Staraptor, and Sky Solo switches out because you don't want to bother losing a speed tire early. You can also always go Plume because there's a pretty good chance that he's going to U-turn as well. You can fish for the Effect Spore. Now we get to Meloetta versus Raj, and we do have the Relic Song, and he fishes for it very early on, because setting Rocks here is just pretty likely out of the Raj, so they do go for that. We turned into Pirouette, and Sky Solo very smartly going for Knock here. This just maybe prevents the opponent from thinking whether we got CC or not, as we do also get a knockoff going on the Quillfish, which is just very, very, very nice. And we got our free U-turn. We can bring out Sand Slash. And we can look for a spin, we can look for a hazard. Unfortunately, we get Flip Turn on and Chandelure comes out. And this is where you kind of get annoyed about not knowing this thing's set. Because, is this Specs here? Am I, like, in danger every time I switch in? Or is this just going to be, like, Boots or Colbur? So, thankfully, they do switch. No, again, not wanting to take a knockoff, not wanting to risk a Psychic. As we just start spamming Relic Songs. Once again, you're noticing, just like the video that me and Joey did. Yeah. This move is not as good as we'd like it to be. As we pivot Plume into the Raj. And thankfully this is a free Strength Sap, no matter what. And they don't go and do the Chandelure there, which that did shock me a little bit. And we get the Effect Spore on Raj, which is incredible. Mostly because, one, again, this helps with Florges, but two, this really unlocks Vileplume quite a lot. Because with Raj asleep, we just have free reign on their team. We could throw off Sludge Bombs more freely too. Because it's, I mean, does this want to come in and get Leech Seed and just stalled down? Probably not. So I do like the direction that we get this game going in after a sleep there. And the really nice thing too is once that Chandelure comes in, it's worried about Sludge Bomb Poison immediately, and we actually just get it. So this is really, really helpful. We still don't know the item, of course, but this still makes the game far more playable, as we do see a very good double switch in by Zium, getting the Raptor in versus the Meloetta, and then we are forced to sacrifice Chandelure, which kind of sucks, because it was looking like it could have been pretty useful for us. But it is what it is. We get Quillfish out. Now we finally get some rocks. And Stealth Rock is, of course, very, very impactful this game for us, because we do want to have a little bit of knowledge on what not the Raptor said, we know that's Scarf, but we want to know what the Shandy is. So once we see Shandy take hazards or not, it's pretty good. Very crucial T-Wave dodge for us there. Now, you know, we can still Relic Song transform and be faster than the potential Chandelure here. And be faster probably than Flygon as well. And here we finally reveal we are close combat. We just have fully physical Meloetta. Opponent did get caught off guard. And now we get a very nice U-turn off. Now, sucks that they could spin these rocks away immediately. We now have no insight on Chandelure set once again. But it's okay. Because, like I mentioned, Triple Axel Serena sucks. He gets one hit and loses his Serena. Stop using this, please. And again, let's get it straight, right? I love Triple Axel still on Serena, because when it works so well, and it is great coverage, but Jesus, does it suck having to rely on this doo-doo-ass move, getting worse accuracy every turn, and still not being particularly strong by the last hit. Anyhow, Meloetta comes out versus the Shandy. This crit actually tells us, by the way, they're set. We know they're not Scarf because you're not running Scarf Raptor plus Scarf Shandy. That's overkill, right? This crit, though, tells us that they are Boots or Colbur or some other non-specs item. So there you go. And yeah, the Goku Vicious on Meloetta. This just once again is a free relic song, though. So we get to be transformed back into super speed form as they go Flygon, which that play did confuse me a little bit. We get a very nice crit there with the U, though. I guess they just wanted to turn to DD. And I mean, they get it here. They do Fire Punch or Vileplume, get a crit, which I don't think mattered one bit. But we got to sleep, so there you go. If it did matter, cancel out immediately. Is now our little Scarflagon able to come out. And from here, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of elementary. The Chandelure, it's not going to deal with us. The Staraptor, it can't one-shot us. So we Terra Dragon. And I believe the Terra Dragon's done because we probably need to Terra to actually take both of these down. So there you go. A little GG, sorry about hacks. Nothing wrong there. Good sportsmanship, man. This is how he went positive in this tournament. Positive mentality, positive mindset every week. Take that to your ladder. And now we got a final game, Boof versus Mr. Outback Rabbit, aka Wadley, aka NU Circuit finalist. Imagine this man gets a ribbon. His stocks through the roof. Unfortunately, first you have to pass the Boof test. I almost said the Boof tax. I did the Boof text. So we're getting taxed. Jeez, I cannot speak. Anyhow, we have a Wadley special. He does like his HO builds. This makes sense given his friend group has a lot of dirty HO spammers in it. Shoutouts Phantom. But I do like the team. I think it's very, very fun. The Staraptor feels very random. Is probably the only gripe I have with it. I don't really know what the point of Raptor here is. I mean, I guess it weakens stuff for Flygon and Tauros. The problem is, again, hazards are just a thing. And with HO, you're probably never getting turns to really give up momentum. So Raptor's just going to come out. And the best it probably is hoping for is a trade. Because Staraptor already kind of struggles to do too much of anything in games, especially when you compare it to Flamigo. And so now running it on a team that doesn't give it the extra leverage it may need through pivoting and just, again, hazard control so that it's not super, super saddened by Stealth Rock. Maybe not the best. So, didn't love that idea. I like a lot of the other stuff on the team. And then Boof's just got a very interesting build as well. Snorlax, Toxicroak, Altaria. Altaria's not really that uncommon. But these two, I mean, former NU Titans falling down to PU. Bringing them right back, seeing how they can do. Snorlax, its whole job this game will literally be to check Toxtricity. That is it. And with Croak, I mean, we're going to see how much does the defensive utility matter. I mean, in theory, it helps with Poros. Sucker Punch, in theory, helps with Raptor. In terms of win con, though, I mean, Boof's team is very weird because I feel like the only mon that's a true win con, right? It's the Snorlax. I mean, Scarf Flygon, in theory, if that's what I would guess the set is from preview, right? I mean, who else is Scarf on this team? Maybe Croak, but God, running Scarf Croak in this meta just seems so bad. What does he even do, you know? I guess Arcanine could be Howl, but you really don't see Howl Arcanine outside of very offensive teams, which this is not. So I wouldn't expect that. Curselax is kind of the only mon then that I see here, and there's a Diancie. There is hyper offense does not give Curselax the turns at once. So let's see, how can Boof win this, or does he get run down? So Toxtricity lead right here, and Wadley switches. His rocks go up. Now, if he had Terra Normal Boom Bursted immediately, I would have called him an absolute god for that, because he would have smoked this Flygon's pack. And then, I mean, Toxtricity just looks really, really strong from there. Of course, Croak could come out, but you just kind of ignore Toxicroak. Pretend it's not there. Honestly, no. If anything, if he had Shift Geared turn 1, predicting a U-turn, or a Stealth Rock. God moves. Boof gets the rocks up there for free. Switches into the keys as well here. CC does 5 million, and that is not banded damage. That's just Scarf Raptor. It's a very, very nice chip. But Boof now throws up a T-Wave. Toxicity comes out, though. So you're kind of always forced to switch. As here we see the immediate shift gear into Boom Burst without the Terra ever dedicated. I do think if he dedicated Terra there, this mon could have been far more problematic. But it is kind of what it is at the end of the day. If you dedicate Terra, you're still just getting Revenge Coat by one of these two. And you dedicated Terra to maybe break the Lax, but you don't need to break the Lax with Toxicity. So, overall, better sequence taken. This Raptor now can come out, finish off the Lax, and this is kind of where we see the whole point of why I think Raptor here is pretty mid. Like, it finishes off a Snorlax. I mean, actually, we kind of see Raptor do far more than I anticipated. It's able to finish off the Lax, easily take a Sucker Punch, and then take down the Croak. It's just like, I don't know. How much it was the Raptor needed to do that over something else. Regardless, Lycanroc gets up Stealth Rock here, as the Arcanine reveals Iron Head, which is really, really good for this matchup. That way Diancie can't set up as easily as it normally could. Of course, Wadley goes to the Diancie here, so you know it's going to be Terraing. As they go for Terra Ground, they do miss a Meteor Beam, which I don't actually think mattered at all because of this turn, where it's Switcheroo's Scarf Clef Key. Also, this being Scarf Keys tells you this Flygon is something far more sinister. It could be. It can still be double Scarf, because this idea is you're just tricking the Scarf away anyway. But I don't think the crit mattered, because, or the miss mattered, because you're not KOing Keys anyway. And then you're getting locked in Earth Power the next turn. So, there's that. The ult comes in, though. Able to get off a very nice Will-O-Wisp here. Not the most necessary, I guess, because Altaria should be checking that mon forever anyway, but it is still useful. As the Arcanine now doubles back in on the Diancie, and this gives Boof a little bit of room to pivot around. Unfortunately, they do end up just getting Moon Blasted, which was not what they wanted. So the Arcanine comes back out. You can throw off a Flare Blitz here, you can throw off an Iron Head, you can do really whatever you want for damage. As they choose to Flare Blitz. And, I mean, you have a perfect counter here, the Altaria. You don't really need to switch, though, because this Poros is burned. So Boof makes the right play there, staying in, able to trade down the Tauros. Now you can just E-Speed to pick it off. Very nicely done. As they instead choose to get ult out, because I guess they like Altaria positionally a little bit more. Because you don't let Flygon DD, potentially. And here's the thing, right? Flygon can be Lumberry DD, and then that... you probably lose. But... hey. Actually, no. You don't lose yet, because you still... Boof actually hasn't burned their Terra yet, so... maybe Flygon DD's up after a Will-O-Wisp Lumberry eat. And then you just tear into like a Fairy type or something. And then you're okay. You just Wisp again as they Dragon Claw or outrage you. So then this turn here actually confused the ever-loving hell out of me. Why is this Altaria faster? And Diancie was tricked. So, I don't know. This Diancie I think actually might have been Trick Room instead of Rock Polish. Because that should never be... Altaria should not be outspeeding Diancie with a Scarf, man. And yeah, here we see Boof forced in the only line they have, which is spam the heck out of Morning Sun here. Boof has to try to get you enough HP to where they can start throwing off some attacks. And they do get to it finally, so most HP you'll get at probably. And E-Speed is 20. So back to the drawing board. Once again, Boof's going to need to Morning Sun back to full. But once they do, they're actually in a very, 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 very commanding position. It's a very good spot for Boof to be in. So now you can E-Speed this. Still have your Terra around. And Flygon can't Terra into a Steel type. So you just E-Speed here. And we just see a crit. This crit didn't matter. As you see, based on this damage, you would have gotten 2-shot anyway. I don't know what the KGG means. I'm going to be honest with you. The crit didn't matter, and I don't think there was really any hacks earlier that mattered. I don't know. I see a K dropped. A capital K feels like particularly powerful. And I'm like, did they think they got hacks? I don't know. Anyhow, though, I thought this game was really cool. Came down to the wire. As you notice, a lot of these games did. This one I honestly just wanted to show because it's a very fun team event. I think this team's just very fun. It's not like I'm using a ton of niche mons outside of this, but the team itself is just very, very fun. And I think it's cool to try and make use of how there's no sleep clause anymore. So you can sleep spam. It really never ends up putting more than one mon to sleep at a time, but it's cool to still have that. This game, the Battle of Titans, like we said, and in this one, we're eternally having to save our team from having a random act loss in a week that it didn't matter. Pulling out a team from, I think, a previous meta, even. I feel like this was an Iron Thorns meta team. We unbanned Iron Thorns, but I'm talking, like, in that period before it's banned. But I hope y'all enjoyed. I will definitely do more NUCL coverage through the semifinals and then the finals. Since I think this is a video I have planned to be a pre-recorded one, so this is gonna go out while I'm gone. And NUCL semifinals is happening like as we speak right now. This is the this is what today as I'm recording this is Friday. So I could probably do a semifinals coverage video before I leave, but any coverage of finals is gonna have to wait a little bit. So appreciate your patience. And thank you for watching all the way down to 31 minutes or so. I'll catch you next time. Peace.